Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of WilksWorld.com, and I am so incredibly grateful that you are taking the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Friends, at the D-Rate the Hate podcast, it's all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. See, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. That all starts with gratitude and personal accountability. We cannot control everything that happens to us in life, but we can control how we react to it. How we act, how we react, no matter what happens to us, how we react to it makes the difference. Friends, there is only one good thing about a bad attitude, and that is that we have the ability as individuals to change it. Here on the DTH podcast, we strive to bring you great guests and provide tools to do just that. Please be sure to share it with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Ratings and feedback are always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get to this week's episode. Friends, I often speak on this podcast about the importance of meaning and purpose in one's life. You know, I also think about and talk about the anger and animosity I've had to overcome from early in my life. Those aren't just stories, but lessons that I can pass on to others in hopes that maybe somebody picks up something from me to avoid the pain and all the ugly that came along with my own journey. Love is an emotional cornerstone that enriches and gives meaning to our lives, transcending barriers and fostering a profound connection with others. It holds the transformative power to dismantle the walls we build around ourselves, allowing genuine human connections to flourish. When we embrace love, we decrease the intensity of anger and resentment, replacing them with understanding and compassion. Opening ourselves to love means exposing our own vulnerabilities, a courageous act that paradoxically strengthens our own soul. It is through the love that we discover the beauty of shared experiences. We find solace in the understanding gaze of others and create a tapestry of relationships that enrich our journey through life. Love in its purest form becomes a guiding force that not only connects us to those around us, but also nurtures the well-being of our own soul. My guest this week is Paul Zolman, and he says the author of Love is God. In his wisdom, he placed us in a variety of circumstances that require us to find our way back to his pure love. So what quantifies Paul Zolman to speak about love? As you'll find out in this episode, much of Paul's childhood experiences were quite the opposite of love. From that austere beginning, and the distaste that it formed inside Paul, he searched for and eventually created a method that transformed his life and helped him to develop a legacy of love. Deep inside, he knew that he wanted a better life for himself, which is why he created a paradigm shift that works. In his book, Role of Love, Paul reveals what helped him move from a childhood boot camp of abuse to being a person who loves everyone and can find good about anyone under any circumstance. Paul will tell you this is truly the role of love. Stay tuned, my friends, for this conversation with my friend Paul Zolman. Here we go. Paul Zolman, thank you for joining me on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, my friend. I've been looking forward to it, man. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Will. My pleasure to be here. Look, delighted to be with you today.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. When when you reached out, I was looking into your stuff, and you talk a lot about love and this personal transformation and this great story of your own of personal transformation, and it really made me think quite a bit about my own story, Paul. So that reflecting on all the things that we can do as individuals to change our life, change the trajectory of our life, and things like that. So why don't you start off for me, Paul, and just kind of tell me, where did this journey start for you? I mean, what was it about? I know you had some childhood trauma, some things that started there, which a lot of people do. It's one of the unfortunate things of life, especially in modern life. A lot of us have those stories. So tell me where it started for you, Paul. What kind of started this journey for Paul Zolman?
the well, it's a great question. It really kind of, when I look back, I think that it started long before I was born. I think it started at least with my grandfather, as far as I know. It's possibly, most probably, started with his father, or maybe his grandfather as well. And I think that generationally, things are transferred through generation. Whatever our parents learned, or whatever our parents knew, however our parents were educated, that's what they taught us. And so that passed on is not genetic, but it's generational. And I think that just to understand a little bit about my ancestry, my grandfather lived in Indiana in the late 1800s, early 1900s. In the early 1900s, he had 9 children. Shortly after the ninth child was born, his wife passed away. Being distraught as most people would be, he made some bad decisions in that time, which is really a bad idea all by itself. But he made some bad decisions. He decided to sell the farm and all the equipment. And when the people came to the auction, he would say something like, "And would you like this child? And would you like this child? And would you like this child?" Until all the children were gone except for one. And he took Benjamin with him, moved to Montana, homesteading time of the history of that area, found a school teacher that had never been married her, had 10 more children, of which my father's number 6. So my father's
Wow.
15 of 19 children. My father was born in 1922, and when he was 10 years old, this grandfather of mine, passed away. So you can imagine now there's 19 children that have been abandoned, 19 children that are in the economic throes of the United States, the Great Depression in 1932, when my father's 10 years old. So you have all that compounding together. And then the decisions that you have to make during that time, it must have been a horrible time of a lot of pressure. Well, my father decided that he wasn't going to finish school, or maybe couldn't finish school because of those economic reasons. So he graduated from 8th grade, and with an 8th grade education, he was able to become a truck driver. So as I was growing up, I'm number 10 of 11 children. So he toned it down a little bit. Instead of 19 children, he only had
backed
11.
It off just a touch, right?
He totally backed it off. And I'm doing that myself. I only have 8 children, and then my children only have 3. So we're really totally changed the generational thing coming through. And so anyway, my father would be gone during the week, and then he'd come home on the weekends. I love this about my father, that he would always reserve Friday night for a date with my mother. I don't remember him ever missing that, ever.
Wow, that's nice.
It was a great example, and I wish I could keep it up. I can't keep up with that. I try, and I just, something comes up, and maybe there's a football game, maybe there's something else that's more interesting to me than my wife, and it's kind of a hard thing to keep up that legacy. But it's a great legacy that my father has. He wasn't very creative about the date, though, Wilk. It was always the Maverick Bar, and it was always over alcohol. So while he's getting imbibed, it's the same thing all the couples do. How was your week? How was your week? And I can imagine, I was never there, but I can imagine my mother starting at the oldest, and now my father's getting annoyed. He's getting annoyed. He's getting annoyed. He's getting annoyed. Now he's at number 10. He's ready to blow. And so I'm number 10. I'm a thorn between 2 roses. There's only 2 girls. All the rest are boys. So I'm the youngest boy. And it's just, I get the wrath. So I would get the belt, or I would get a very severe spanking. In fact, I remember one spanking that was so severe that I was black and blue for 3 weeks or more. And it was just something that, it was just really hard, very hard childhood. I tried to be good, absolutely tried to obey all the rules, but I'm sandwiched between these 2 girls. And you can understand my father valuing women so highly that I'm between these 2 women. If I even look at them cross-eyed, I'm in trouble. And so
at that point, I mean, you're, and I hate to say it this way, but I've known this not in my personal life, but people that have been very close to me. You know, this is what I call the difference between a punishment and a true beating. I mean, this is taking one person, and it becomes a reckoning for all the things that they don't want to take out on another person, right?
Yeah.
And it's brutal, and it's brutal to be the subject of that kind of a beating instead of, punishment, because, as a kid, you just don't understand, right?
Well, and I didn't understand. The whatever I did was so far away from the disconnected from the punishment. I couldn't even remember what I did to deserve anything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was just really, really difficult for me. When that circumstance, I thought, how am I going to get out of here? And I just said, I'm going to move. Started earning my own money, started saving up, and I moved in with my brother several hundred miles away, and lived with him my senior year of high school. So I left after my junior year. I'm 17 years old, and I'm figuring out my brother has the same problem. He's stacking one annoyance on top of another annoyance on top of another one, and then he'll blow. And he just don't know when that's going to happen. I mean, my brother had a lot of great qualities as a great father until he blew, and until that happened. And then I started realizing I had that problem, and you just don't know when that's going to happen. So fast forward a while, I at age 35, I'm still blaming my father for those social awkward moments when you get angry in public. How are you going to ever retract that? How are you ever going to bring that back? How are you ever going to change the minds of all those people surrounding you, and you're blowing your stack?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's something you send out. You can't. It's like tearing little pieces of paper, walking up and down the street, and now you have to collect all those tiny pieces of paper. That's your punishment, and it's how are you going to do that? They're blowing all over the place. You're never going to get all those pieces together. So I started realizing that I'm responsible for my own actions. I could not further blame my father. In fact, at age 35, my father had been dead for 7 years. He died when I was 28. I was still blaming him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that blame exonerated me because it's his fault.
Well, that's
He's the one that has to change. And if you can blame anyone for anything, you don't have to change. You don't have to do a thing.
That's right. You shun that accountability. One of the things that I talk most about on this podcast and in my coaching sessions and things that I do, Paul, is talk about the importance of personal accountability. And when we shun that accountability, when we try to blame somebody else for our problems, whether it be, when I talk about the perpetual victim mentality and people, or when people are constantly trying to label others as evil and whatever, all of those different things are ways for us to say it's their fault. This is something that they have to deal with, and I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to hold myself accountable for my part in this transaction. I can push that blame away from me, and I can build up that wall, and your story is so powerful, Paul, because it makes me think of so many things in my personal life, all the anger, all the resentment, all the things that built up in me throughout my childhood and stuff like that. Now, I've absolutely, I had one of the best relationships with my father, and thank God I didn't deal with the kind of beatings that you did. I certainly dealt with some punishment. I had two sisters. There were three of us. Where we did have the punishments. There were certain things that I endured as a child in the realm of punishment that most people probably wouldn't today, but certainly not to the degree that you do. And there were a lot of those other things that happened in my childhood. I can totally relate to some of the things that you're saying, and that resentment that I had, and the way that you cast off that personal accountability and say, well, this isn't me. I'm the victim of circumstance here. And I cannot be held responsible for the fact that I am going to blow my top and punch a hole in this wall, or knock this guy in the chops, whatever the case may be. You can always, when you feel like you have justification, for that thing, you can cast off that blame and not have to deal with it, right?
Absolutely. And it just took me so long. What I found myself doing, Wilk, was I'd make negative statements. I'd say, I don't want to be angry. And I realized that those negative statements didn't change me a bit.
Not a bit.
Because it's like those two negatives in math. You can multiply two negatives together, they make a positive. In relationships, that doesn't work.
No.
It absolutely doesn't work. So trying to do that in relationships and trying to say that I don't want to do this is just a really bad idea. Instead, it's better to say I want to do this, or I want to be like this. And I found that out over a period of time. It actually was really pronounced probably about 15 years ago. All that anger, all the flashing, everything probably was contributory to the demise of my first marriage. And unfortunately, after 23 and a half years and 8 children, my wife and I divorced. I had primary custody of the remaining 5 children that were still in the home. And so on those weekends off, what I'd do is I'd go destination dating. It was fun. I had a great time. I'd find someone online that lived in a different city. We'd decide on where we're going to meet. We'd have a date, and then we'd go back to our different cities. Had a great time. I went to Jacksonville, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, Atlanta, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, New York City, Nashville, Kansas City, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, Cabo San Lucas, and a few more places that I went destination dating for. In a year and a half, I spent more than $10,000. That doesn't sound like a lot, but to me, it was a lot for just nothing.
Sure.
And I felt like I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And it was just,
of course.
So it was all temporary. It was just like that song that people sing, and the lyrics of the song, looking for love in all the wrong places. And that's exactly what I was doing. Didn't find a thing. So now I'm end up in Phoenix, living in Phoenix, and my sister gives me a call. Well, she says, I've got a neighbor that would be perfect for you. She's an older sister. And I said, I don't think so. 7 hours away. I said, I don't want to do destination dating anymore. I'm done. And she's the older sister. And you imagine the pecking order. I'm number 10 of 11. I am the mobile channel changer when you had to walk up to the TV and turn the button. I didn't make any choices. They told me what to do. I was the remote. So
Yep.
And it's like that. That's the pecking order. So, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. She says, oh, come on. I said, oh, okay. So
you feel obligated almost, right?
Well, there was an obligation. I'm half-hearted about the whole thing. And I'm thinking, oh, I'll start emailing. I mean, who can develop a relationship through email? Nobody. And so anyway, I'm doing this email thing, and actually it's really fun. She's a great writer, and we're having fun, and she's got a huge sense of humor. And then we started talking on the phone, and then we started just kind of developing the relationship. I finally moved up to where my sister was at and started developing the relationship a little bit more. Now it's time to take her to Big Brother for Big Brother approval. Always have to have that when you're number 10 of 11. You got to have all these approvals.
Sure. Yeah.
All these levels, So when I take her into my brother's house, my sister-in-law pulls her aside and said, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up is anger. At first I said, denied it. Then it made me mad. And I thought, she nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. And I thought at that moment, if that's the perception that outsiders had of the Zolman family, I said, I've got an opportunity right here and now to change that perception. So I determined that I would start reading the color code and the 5 love languages. And I really kind of settled on the principles of the 5 love languages. They resonated with me. What the heck, though? I could not get the application. You mean, Wilk, I have to guess what your love language is and cater to that? And they're calling that love? I came from a place I didn't know what love was.
Right.
How can they call that love? I mean, that's almost like obligation or just a guessing game. That's not that it wasn't love to me. So the second thing that Dr. Chapman has in his 5 love language book was well, if I take this survey, I can find out what my love language is. What the heck am I supposed to do with that? Advertise? Hello, Wilk. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? It's as ridiculous as that sounds. That's how I felt. Or if I tell you what my love language is, and you try to cater to that, and I'm not getting enough, is I get this little whiny voice that said, "Well, I told you how to love me. How come you're not doing that?" And that's a little pity party that I'm having because I told you how to love me. Why aren't you doing it? And it's just I did not even want to go that route. So I thought, when I was younger, one thing that pulled our family together was games. I thought, I'm going to contact Dr. Chapman, see if he'll license those little icons for the love languages.
Sure.
And
sure.
His attorney wrote me back and said, no, we're not doing that. Oh, I was so grateful. They're really old. They're really outdated. They're ugly. And I did not want to put them on anything that I was going to be doing. So I contacted an intellectual property attorney in my town here. And he said this. He said that theory is not copyrightable. Application. Sure. So I was going to make a new application. I made my own little icons, put it on the application, and made it into a dice. So just this little simple game.
Sure.
Here for your listeners, I'm showing 2 hands that are touching. So that's the icon I made for touch. There's a hand holding a gift. A hand holding an hourglass, signifying time.
Yep.
A hand holding a platter, like service. A service. So that signifies service.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got 2 hands together, creating a heart, and then a conversation fly out from that heart, indicating the words. So 5 love languages, 6 sides on the die. The 6th side is surprise me. So there's just 2 instructions. Well, you roll the die every day. That's the love language you practice giving away all day that day. I created this book when I was single. I didn't have a significant other to try this on. Didn't have anybody. So I thought, what am I going to do? I can't do what Dr. Chapman says to do because I don't have a significant other. So I thought, I'm going to make this up. I'm going to do it to everybody. And I realized that I only have ability or the power or the control to give it away. I don't have any power to bid it to come my way. All I have power to do is give it away and react when it comes my way. When I realized what my boundaries were, what my lane was, and stay in my lane, it was so much easier to practice love and to do this. So every day, the spice of the game is that every day it might be a little bit different.
Sure.
But over a 30-day period, you'll have experience giving away, might be uncomfortable, might be out of your box, but you will have given away all 5 love languages so that you become what I like to call a love language linguist. Sexy title, Wilk. I know you want it. Put it on your resume. Everybody wants that title.
It's a good one. So Paul, this game that you're now playing. So you're a single guy. You're having a hard time expressing love. Your sister-in-law has basically outed you and your siblings as these angry, emotional beings. So you're obviously at this point, you learn to recognize at that point, I have a problem. I think about your story about, this destination dating thing and how one of the things that I heard a long time ago is you should never run from something, you should run to something. And obviously, when we think about running to something, we in ourselves, a lot of times we're the thing that we are running from. This kind of goes back to that personal accountability thing, right? So, and I'm just walking through this in my mind, but so many of us we're our own greatest enemy. right? And we're the thing that we're trying to run away from. We think it's something, we think it's our job, we think it's the town or the state in which we live, we think it's the people that we're around, but a lot of times it's us. And sometimes when we're running to or running away from where we are, we can't get away from us because it's still us. So wherever you're going, but I like this idea, Paul, of this game because, you know, number one, it's this thing that brought you back to your childhood. It's the thing about your childhood that you really admired, you really enjoyed, and that helps to kind of battle that ugliness that you experienced as a child. It kind of starts to replace that bad with the good and show you that there is a positive way to move forward and get beyond. So I'm digging it, man. This is it's really a cool thing. And then the 5 love languages. So kind of take this full circle. How did this start to improve you for you? Because like I've told so many people about my own personal life, for me, it took me several years of kind of trying to avoid tying in with somebody else and working solely on myself. And it sounds like this is a possible way for people, because that's a long road in my case to get to where I needed to be as a person before I could ever be the person that I wanted to be for somebody else. This to me sounds, Paul, like a, I don't want to say shortcut, but a much more desirable way to go about it.
It really is that easy, Wilk. And I want to explain it maybe with a little illustration. The other day I was walking and found this stick that had no bark on it at all. One end of the stick is really, really nice and smooth, but you go to the end of the stick, it's about 3.5 feet tall. Go to the other end of the stick, it's got little sharp points here. And I'm going to call this side the naughty side of the stick, and then the nice side of the stick. Santa Claus has a stick just like that. That's how you get your presents at Christmas, Wilk.
Is that right?
I didn't know if you knew that, but he keeps track of the naughty and nice. And what I found out, using that as a spectrum, what I found out is that anger was on that naughty side of the stick. And anger has a culture and all by its own. It has vocabulary. It has humor. It has nuances like sarcasm. It has those little things, those little jibes, those little burrs that come all with that angry culture. And I realized when I went to my sister-in-law's house where I was on the stick, I was still on the angry side of the stick. Putting love at the other end of the stick, the nice side of the stick, I was still at the angry side of the stick. I was still having those flashes. I was still becoming annoyed at what other people were doing. And when I realized what I was doing, I knew where I was on the stick. I had 3 choices. I could stay the same, which is the blame game, the victim game that you're talking about. By blaming others, you don't move anywhere on the stick.
Nope.
I could go become more angry, or I could become more loving. Only when you are self-actualizing, when you realize where you're at on that naughty and nice stick or on that spectrum, only then can you make goals to be able to make some change. Only then can you have the eyes to see, where do I want to go with this and what do I want to do? And I wanted to learn the language, so to speak, not the language of anger. I already knew that. I learned that first. Unfortunately, some people learn the language of love first, and they understand what anger is, and they don't ever want to go there. I learned it opposite, backwards, dyslexic, so to speak. And so I learned anger first, and then I wanted to learn what the love languages are. So I learned the language of love, learned the humor of love, the nice, soft humor that just kind of makes you laugh, but still makes you feel good. You don't feel put down. You don't feel like you're the butt of the joke or anything like that. It's just kind humor and kind vocabulary like that. And so when you know that spectrum, it's so easy to move. Just take, for example, the word sarcasm. You think it's on the naughty side of the stick or the nice side of the stick? It's funny as heck. It's on the naughty side of the stick.
Oh, though. For sure. Yeah.
So what helped me most, Wilk, was to find out, well, if that's the behavior that I have, what would be an opposite? What would be the antonym of that word? And I found myself finding, oh, it's genuineness, it's authenticity, it's being true, it's being just being real. And when I realized that, I wanted to shoot toward that end of the stick. I did not want to have sarcasm as being part of my personality anymore. You can take that with any vocabulary word. Is it on the naughty side of the stick, or is it part of the loving vocabulary? And you can do that. And I highly recommend doing that. What describes your behavior right now? And then when you figure that out, you know where you're at on the stick. Really,
Sure.
very helpful.
Sure. No, very helpful, very helpful. And just kind of taking our conversation full circle, Paul, it really is about what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of legacy do you want to have? What kind of person do you want to be? How do you get to where you are? I mean, you and I both can relate to this, and we spent a lot of years of our life, Paul, as miserable human beings. I personally like where I'm at today a lot better than I was. I like the person that I am a lot better today than the person that I used to be. You talked about early in our conversation about all those little pieces of paper and all that damage that you were doing, that trail of kind of trail of destruction, right? And the things that you did, but when you begin to realize that you are the master of your destiny, you are the person that's able to, you are the only person that's able to. I mean, I talk about it in the intro to my show. The only good thing about a bad attitude is that we have the ability to change it. You talked about people making you angry. Well, they didn't make you angry. They may have been the catalyst, but you made yourself angry. And it's only you that can change that. It's only you that can work through that. Nobody has the ability to make you mad. You have the ability to make you mad. And by truly and genuinely looking inside yourself, deciding what language you want to speak with. I don't care if you're speaking to yourself or you're speaking to somebody else. It's the language that you choose to use that's going to determine what side of that stick you fall on today, and how people are going to react to you. We've only got the ability to control ourselves. There's so many things in this world that are outside of our control. And if we do not make the right choices, we are bound to be miserable. And that definitely shakes off on the rest of us. You being a father, me being a father, we know that our children will be the recipients of our what we project to them, and they carry that on, and the anger that I had, the anger that you had, that comes from somewhere. And it's something that has to be worked through. So what kind of legacy do people want to leave?
Exactly. How do you want to be remembered? I love that, Wilk. And so what changed it for me is I remember how I started to be annoyed, that it was somebody else was doing something that annoyed me. It wasn't me. I don't ever annoy myself. How would I do that?
Right.
It's ridiculous to think that, but it's absolutely true. I don't get annoyed at myself very often. Sometimes I imagine it's happened, but not very often. It's mostly other people, what they're doing. And when I realized that, I would think, well, what's wrong with that person? And then I'd be annoyed. I stopped doing that. When I started rolling the die, I started thinking, what's right with that person? What can I love about that person? And I became so busy and so focused on what was right with the other people, I forgot all about being annoyed at what other people are doing. I forgot all about it. So I didn't start being annoyed and flashing. It stopped immediately. Within 30 days of rolling the die, developing that habit of rolling the die and watching for loving opportunities to give it away without any expectation of it coming back my way, but trusting that it will. It's the plant of the law of the harvest. It's karma. It's the law of attraction. Whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. You send it out. Someday it's coming back. You send anger out, you get an immediate return on that investment.
Absolutely, it's a guaranteed fact. It's coming back. It's coming back.
Coming right back. And those people, you make them have a bad day, guess what? They got a circle of influence. They're going to have a bad day too. Same things happen though if you help them have a good day. What you're watching as you're rolling the die is you're watching for them to light up. When they light up, guess what you hit? No longer do you have to pause the relationship. Wait, could you just take this survey so I know how to love you? You don't have to do that anymore. You're watching their. It sounds fun, but it's so ridiculous. But you're watching their reaction, and from that reaction, from your observation skills, you're making a mental note. Oh, they like that. I'll just wash, rinse, repeat. Do it over and over again.
Yep. No, that's cool, man. Well, another great set of tools for people, here on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, Paul, we're all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We try to bring people tools to do just that. I mean, it's so great to have people who can come in, share their story, talk about real results. And Paul, just do me a favor, round out our time together today. Tell people where they can find out more about you, find out more about the role of love, and just get some more information on maybe this is the thing that can help somebody change their life today. And just let's wrap it up.
Okay. They can find me at roleoflove.com, ROLE of love. I did kind of a play on words. ROL is what you do with the dice outside of you. ROLE is what happens, the change within you. And it's really kind of intrinsic that way. When I read through the 5 love languages 4 or 5 times, read through them, the book never went through me. So even at the end of that, I couldn't tell you what the 5 love languages, you offered me $1 million. I couldn't tell you what they were. I couldn't spit it out. And I know there's a lot of listeners like that. They've heard of it, but they probably can't spit them all out right now. And I was just like that. I wanted to learn them. I wanted to become that love language linguist. If you're auditory and you're listening to this podcast and you like to listen to books, the audible version of the book is on Amazon. You don't want to type in love anything because you're going to get love a million things. You want to type in my name, it'll come right up to the audible version of the book or the Kindle version of the book if you like the electronic version as well, and you can buy it that way. On my website, though, I've got a journal, so you can keep track of what you rolled, what opportunities you saw that day to love in that way, and then what you did about those opportunities. Just keep that accountability for yourself so that you're on track with yourself. Great love journal. This becomes a love legacy that you're talking about, Wilk. And I really like the journal aspect of it. It's on the pages. It's got suggestions of what you rolled, opportunities you saw, and then what you did about those opportunities. When I open up a journal, it's on a blank page. My mind goes blank. What the heck did I do today? This is more focused, becomes really a love legacy journal. You can do it day to day and keep on track with the therapy. Keep on track with what mindset you want to have, that loving mindset. It's a replacement behavior for the anger, and it's going to benefit your life and the lives of everyone around you.
Very cool, Paul. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the D-Rate the Hate podcast. People can go to your site. That'll be in the show notes. Obviously, people will be able to check that out. And man, keep bettering the world in which we live. Keep it up.
Thank you very much, Will. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the D-Rate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.